7 and 36. Luke 7 and 36. But while we getting there, you know, I was asking the Lord, with Dr. G say, what was that? Ross?
Yeah.
We're standing in line.
Yeah.
It wasn't, thank God it wasn't long.
No.
But there wasn't hardly nothing in there.
Yeah.
But let you know people was willing to come out, huh? It wasn't hardly nothing in there. But that line was way right there, you know. But no, we wasn't in that line. But when I got the text, I said, Felicia, you up? She said, no, you up. Then she said, he asked you. And I was like, okay. and I was asking the Lord, I said, you know what, Lord? What do you want me to say? You know, because it's easy to talk about COVID. It's easy to talk about these things. But, you know, we still need hope. We still need, we beyond this stuff. We know our God is greater than COVID. We know our God is greater than sickness and diseases. Because you know what? When we look at our life, COVID don't stand a chance. Let me tell you something. When you can't find taxes and you're dealing with a lady that's behind the counter that won't let you ride, God is faithful. When somebody walk up and say, I got it. Or you can look in your car and you can find the taxes. I ran across people like that. They were so hard. It's $8, but it's $8.15 with the taxes. $8.07. Some people won't let you pass with that. And when I look at COVID, as opposed to in my old mindset, they tell you to run out the store. You know, they tell you it's going to run out the store right there, the car right there. They're going to say, you know, I thank God that He had advanced my life so far above anything that can come my way until it'd be foolish for me to have things come my way to say I don't trust God.
Right.
I mean, well, anyway, I guess we been shut up too long. But anyway, watch this here. Luke 7 and 36. It says, and one of the Pharisees desired him that he would eat with him. And he went into the Pharisee's house and sat down to meat. Now, I can stop right there and just preach right there because there's a lot of maxi mega saved people won't even go do that. What if somebody at your job that's an atheist asked you to come to their house? Jesus did it. Are you that saved? Jesus is our greatest example. That's not my text, but I just had to stop right there because I know people who shut off people that God may have placed in front of them in a they may come to you in an arrogant way, but your level of immaturity won't allow you to see it could have been a God thing that sent them to you to give them the hope that lies in you. This is a thought. I run across them all the time, and especially in the line of work that I do. When we go into people's houses, those children that's abused be so happy to see us. Their words can't express that we have an advocate to speak for them in that brief moment. It's amazing. Okay. Watch it. At verse 37, and behold, a woman in the city which was a sinner, when she knew that Jesus sat at meat in the Pharisee's house, brought an alabaster box, and stood at his feet behind him, weeping. Now you gotta get this picture. Please, can I see you for a second? That's it. Now, you're the woman that's weeping. Now you standing behind me. Now everywhere I go, you go, right? Because you don't want she don't want these judgmental people out there to see her, right? So,
Yeah, be weeping.
You see what I'm saying? She stood behind him weeping because she didn't want nobody to judge her.
Yeah.
But she was desperate. Is anybody desperate?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I thank you, sweetheart. Thank you. You supposed to weep every time. You know that. But anyway, watch this. And stood at his feet behind him weeping, and began to wash his feet with her tears, and wiped them with her hairs of her head, and kissed his feet, and anointed him with ointment. Okay? Now when the Pharisees which had bidden him saw it, he spake within himself, saying, this man, if he were a prophet, would have known who and what manner of woman this is that touched him, for she is a sinner. Isn't that something? Woo, that's something. Watch this here. And Jesus answering and said unto Simon, I have somewhat to say unto thee. It's one thing when people are saying things about you. But it's another thing when you have the silent killer in the room, when it's your thoughts that's judging me without it coming out your mouth. That's who Jesus was referring to, Simon. See, Simon had this silent thing that was in him. Let me give you a little background of this story. You know, every now and then, when there was a debate or something going on, people would gather at certain people's houses and they would debate. They would have stories and things like that. But because they knew where Jesus was going, these guys wanted to debate. And every now and then they will go to certain places to have these type of forums. Like if you wanted to debate, you can go down here to Lamar. Lamar got open forum down here. You can go and rent out certain places where people will give you permission. And if you talk, some people are going to stand by and you can have dialogue. This was one of these occasions at Simon's house. Jesus already knew what the Pharisees going to say. They going to say something. You already know what little Terry, Man, and Pookie going to say. But what grandma going to say? What your husband, your wife, your cousin, the people that's close to you, what are they going to say silently about you serving God? Your neighbors that will say hallelujah to you, but look at you and say, I don't believe in that deliverance stuff. I don't believe in that casting out of devils. Anybody in the room that knows what I'm talking about? He was addressing Simon. Now listen at this here. Our consolation should always be that there is nothing in our lives that God cannot use as a means of salvation. It's nothing. Okay? Simon the Pharisee, a religious leader, had invited Jesus to dine in his home. Only Luke has Jesus being invited specifically at his home of a Pharisee. Could you imagine? Suddenly, an uninvited, unnamed woman appears who describes simply as a sinner in the city. Without speaking, she weeps, wets Jesus' feet with her tears, wiped them with her hair, kissed them, and anoint them with perfume oil. Many commentaries point out that this is a story that could be read as the preparation of Jesus' death and resurrection. An ironic correlation of a rightful king of the Jews. Jesus makes the messianic overtone explicit in the Gospels parallel of this story. You can find it in Matthew 26 and 12, Luke 14 and 8, and John 12 and 7. But Luke is the only one that has the Pharisees saying, hey man, I want to give you a special invitation to come on in. Okay? Others, taking their cues from Jesus' indictment of Simon, that's in Luke 7:44 and 47, we're going to get to that in just a second. Contrast the woman's lavish acts of hospitality and faithfulness with Simon's failure to demonstrate an ancient virtue of hospitality. When somebody invites you into their house, more than likely they're going to say, you want something to drink, or have a seat, or do you want something to drink, do you want something to eat? Simon did none of that. Could you imagine? Okay? So you got to look at the intent of where Jesus was going as opposed of what the people were saying. Because it was expected for the Pharisees to say all that stuff. But he wanted to address the person who has what the Pharisees is bold enough to say that this person wasn't willing to say. But he was saying it in his heart. It's bad when somebody tell you verbally that they don't love you, but it's another thing when you can feel the thickness in the room without them saying anything. You can just know that something is not right. You need an advocate that will speak on your behalf, because you can't say nothing to that person that will convince them that you can't plead your cause with them, because they already got their preconceived notion of whatever they think about you. So you need somebody that's higher that can speak to that person on your behalf. Ooh, you got to get this picture. She's sitting there weeping, and the Pharisees saying, you was a prophet, you would have known. And Simon's sitting there like this here. And Jesus sitting there looking like, what an opportunity for everybody in the room to sit at my feet, to take part in what this woman is doing. But I feel some funkness, some stank in the room. I feel some issues that I need to address. But I need to come down on the level to where when I explain this to Simon, everybody in the room is going to know what I'm talking about. Because everybody in the room is going to feel what I'm going to say because you have experienced it in one way or the other. Isn't that something? Watch this here. Watch this here. It says, I wish to focus on instead on small detail of the story that often goes unnoticed. The fact that Simon objects to himself, Simon thinks, if this man were a prophet, this is what Simon thinking also with these people, he would have known who and what kind of man or woman who is touching him. She is a sinner. He said, let's explore this more closely. The story of the woman anointing Jesus' feet occurs each time in the other Gospels, but in comparisons with the other versions, only Luke makes it clear that Simon objects silently to himself. Silently. That's why Jesus, instead of addressing all of the other religious nuts that was in the room, he looked at Simon and said, verse 4, he said, and Jesus answered and said unto him, Simon, I have somewhat to say unto thee. And he said, say on, master. Master, say on. There was a certain creditor which had 2 debtors. The one owed 500 pence and the other 50. And when they had nothing to pay, he frankly forgave them both. Tell me therefore, which of them will love the most? Simon answered and said, I suppose that he to whom he forgave most. And he said unto him, thou hast rightly what? Judged. Whoa. Now where did the judge come from? Because the people was judging the woman outwardly. Simon was doing it inwardly. Do you see? Okay. Watch this here. Going somewhere with this. And now, verse 24. And he turned to the woman and said unto Simon. He turned to the woman and said unto Simon. He turned unto the woman, but said unto Simon. He turned to the woman, but said unto Simon. Do you see? In other words, everybody in the room is going to get what Jesus is saying. But I'm addressing the elephant that's in the room that's not saying anything but secretly judging this woman. There are some people out there that secretly held a personal vendetta against you that had nothing against you, but it was a devil that was assigned against you that used that person to turn your application down. You need an advocate that will speak to the person. Speak to the turn to you, but yet speak to the person. Do you see? Some things happen in life that you and I are not even aware that it was an agent of Satan that was used to bring you down. And you can't do nothing about it. But when Jesus addressed the issue, he's talking to the thing that's stopping it, but he's also looking at you for unbelief. That we have this thing to where it's just supposed to happen or they just turned me down. No. If you just walk around in life with an attitude of just saying, well, these things just happen. Well, wait a minute. If you qualify with the same person and it happened over and over and over again, you probably want to address the silent thing that's not saying nothing but speaking a lot in your life. Oh, yeah. I can tell you some stories about Huntsville when I was at the GIST unit, how that devil come from high places way down to small little Mr. Ray to get me out of there. Because you in there sharing the word of God. Come down there and you wouldn't think that devil would do that. But at the same time, I had an advocate that was speaking. He was speaking. This thing was speaking loud in my life. Loud. He was saying, I'm coming for you. And you can see it. You can see it in the spirit, but it's almost like you can't do nothing about it because it's in high places. This is in Huntsville. And these people are coming. But the beauty of what God did when I resigned from out of there, the doors just opened and we had not missed a beat. Did I have a witness? Do you see? So in other words, when you allow God to speak to the silence of what people are saying about you, that they don't tell you verbally, but they saying it inwardly, they'll tell you good job, but walk 10 feet away, I hate your guts. You're going to need an advocate that will speak for you, that will silence that voice, but is healing if that person acknowledges what they done wrong. Does that make sense? Okay. Now watch this here. Watch this here. Verse 44. And he turned to the woman and said unto Simon, see thou this woman. I entered into thine house, thou gavest me no water for my feet, but she has washed my feet with her tears, and wiped them with the hairs of her head. Thou gavest me no kiss, but this woman, since the time that I came in, have not ceased to kiss my feet. Now you got to understand that culture back then. Back then, when you even greeted somebody who did like this, they didn't even do that. They didn't even do that. Or when you come in, like I said, when you invite somebody in, the most natural thing to do, even worldly people know how to come in and say, do you want something to drink? Do you want something to eat? Or, man, I don't have nothing, but I can go get something right quick. None of that happened. This woman bust in. Now this woman, to me, she was courageous. She was a skillful planner, an observer of opportunity, determining to get what she needed. That's a perfect picture of what we should be striving for. Oh. Watch this here. She had no reservations, no invite. None of her homegirls called to ask her, hey girl, Jesus is coming over here. She had did this on her own because she was desperate. She took it upon herself to show up at a men's party. She had to do it, but she had to ask herself some serious questions before she did that. This is what I think. Number one, she was wondering what people would think. What people going to think that a woman like me, that they done labeled as a sinner, coming into a men's meeting. Do you know what people are going to think about me? Do you know what they're going to say about me? Watch this here. When the Lord Jesus is on the scene, who cares about what people think? Watch this here. You better get yours. You better get yours. If you don't believe what I'm saying, go to Mark 10:46. Mark 10:46. Let's see what old blind Bartimaeus had to say about this matter. Blind Bartimaeus had something to say about this. I'm still with the woman. You got to get desperate for God. You got to do some things every now and then. You have to do some things that's out of your comfort zone to get God's attention. Yes, He blessed you. Yes, He kept your family. But when you have something standing in front of you, if you have things that's opposing you, that your prayers back then don't seem to be working like it did what you need right now. You need to do some things that's out of the ordinary. When the last time you called out to Him? And I'm talking about, Lord, I just want to give you my son. I just want to give you. You said, now my son is in trouble. Ah! But when the last time that you really did something that was out of your comfort zone? Do y'all see what I'm saying? Watch this here. I'm not going to read the whole story of Blind Bartimaeus, but watch this here. In verse 46, Mark 10 and 46. And they came to Jericho, and as he went out of Jericho with his disciples, a great number of people, blind Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, sat by the highway side begging. Blind, sitting by a highway begging. And when he heard, somebody said when he heard. Oh, come on, say it. When he heard.
When he heard.
Watch this here. It was, when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to what? Cry out. And say, Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me. When was the last time that you just said, Jesus, have mercy? He heard your prayers way back then. But you know what I think as believers, sometimes we think we can peg God. That what He did today and last year, He would do it the same way. Do you not know that God will hide on you? He would hide on you where you have to seek Him, where you have to find Him, where you would have to do everything which you know to do. What happens when you fast and you pray and it still seems like nothing is happening? You better get in there and start praying. You better get in there and start hollering. You better get in there and do something unconventional. If you don't have no anointing, or you better go to the dipstick of your car and go get the hood, and get that all out of that and do something different. That's different because you're desperate.
That's right.
You got to be desperate for some things you want. When Felicia texted me and told me my son made an honor roll, I was sitting in training. You know what I did? I Move right on. Move right on. It need prayer. What's this here? And then when you can have different type of meats on the table, when you can remember when it was only one, my only has a first name, you know, and you got ribs, you got limbs, you got chicken. He began to cry and say, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy. And many charged him. They didn't just walk, they charged him, they bum rushed him in the hood, like we would say. They charged him that he should hold his peace, but he cried what? The more, a great deal. Thou Son of David, have mercy. And watch this here. This is what I found out. And when I read this story, it was like parallel to what I have read, but even though I had not read it. And if I hadn't read it, I didn't get the meaning until I went through it. I remember a time when me and Felicia went through in our marriage, we just ain't like each other no more. And you agree, we just ain't like each other no more. And we was like, that's it! That's it. When you look at each other like, I don't like you either. Just walk off. You know, when it's one of those things right there, and the Lord shows up, the Lord shows up. When he shows up, his compassion overlooks and overrides your ignorance. And he begins to deal with the covenant that you had made with him to persuade you to forgive. To persuade you to say, if God forgiven me, I can forgive you. Only a God could do that. And I can remember when all of these things was going on, how the devil and people, close friends, was telling me, hey, you need to go on ahead and handle your business, man, go and get you a lawyer, go on and do all this stuff. And the Lord said, who do you trust? Who do you believe? And I was looking at my natural eye and said, well, this is what they said, and this is what I better do. Well, the Lord was telling me, he said, now, I want you to reflect back over your life and see if you had done anything different. And in my little small way of thinking, I said, I did it everywhere. I did it. And you say you're faithful. And this and that. He said, watch this here. Watch this. He said, you didn't cry out to me. You didn't cry out to me. And I said, what do you mean? What do you mean? He said, search me in the scriptures of the people who was desperate for me. How bad do you want to obey me? And I said, well, I want to obey you. He said, that love your wife as Christ had loved the church and gave himself ransom. I said, help. I'm sorry about that.
You okay?
Save my marriage. Save me. Whatever what I'm dealing with, kill it in me. Whatever thing that's setting me back, kill it. And I found out 3 months later, 19 years strong. Almost 19 years? 18 years. We're here. Because you know why? Somebody cried out. I'm pretty sure she did too. You cried out. You cried out on a dead thing. Even when the devil is sitting there telling you it ain't working. And all of the tremors is sitting there, and the evidence is the tremors is sitting around there telling you that it's not going to work. You better shut your eyes off. You better shut your ears off. That's what this woman did. That's what blind Bartimaeus did. They didn't hear. It looked like the more that they tried to shut him up, the louder he got. The more the devil tries to shout to you, and the more he makes it big in you, the more you cry out. Because sometimes God is standing right there, and he ain't saying nothing until you pull the right switch that will make him stand in your situation. Do you hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Blind Bartimaeus, he said, and watch this here. Watch this here. This is how I know that Jesus will keep moving. Jesus will steady moving. The louder that he got. Watch what verse 49 said. And Jesus did what? You need Jesus to stand still in your situation. You need him to stand still in your mess. You need him to stand still regarding your children, your marriage, your finances, the direction that you're getting ready to take. Because as we read the scriptures, we know that God is a moving God. He's always moving. He's always doing something. He only hears the cry of the what? Righteous. The righteous. Watch this here. He said, and Jesus stood still and commanded him to be called. Isn't it something when God commands you to tell the people to shut up? I know y'all talking about him, but I want y'all to bring him to me. You don't deserve that position, but I'm going to give it to you anyway because they say that you can't have it. I'm going to put your marriage back together because they said that y'all wasn't going to make it. Watch this here. Watch this here. And they called the blind man, saying unto him, oh, now they changed their story. Be of good cheer. That tells me that when Jesus command you, that even when the devil was against you, he make him be for you. Oh, I've seen too many times in my life where the devil was trying to use some things against me and the devil made him bow down and return that stuff. I got a testimony to tell you. I took out a student loan back when I was 19. And the devil had backed me up in the corners where if I didn't take, I had to get out of the dorms and I had to pay and all this other stuff. So the school, Level Christian University, had said, oh, you got to take out this, it was a Perkins loan? Perkins loan. And I took out this Perkins loan, but what I did not know, it was an educational loan. That means that thing stays with you forever. Now, all these years, we getting tax returns pretty much, right? And last 2 days, we getting our tax return, and we was looking for this tax return. Well, we were looking for that. We ain't like some of y'all got all this money that's sitting around reserve and all that stuff. God always shows up with us in the midnight hour. I don't know why he do that. When we think gonna turn around, and all of a sudden, right when the folks say get out, he said, we can't. We stay now. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? You go for a Honda, but he give you an Acura. You've been there all day looking for a Honda, and then the man turned around at the last minute and said, well, we got this Acura over here. Watch this here. They took my money, well, our money. And I know Felicia had that. God, no, that's your mess. That's your mess. We ain't won that time. We ain't won flesh at that time. That's your stuff. You caused that, you know. So she went back to the tax lady, and the tax lady, they filled out another form, what's called a spousal thing. Injured spouse, to where they won't take her part. So she'll still get a check. Well, this time they took our tax return. And when they took, they sent, I was on the phone with them. And the lady that for the Department of Education said that your tax return went on this bill. Okay, well, we talked to the law. But a few weeks later, I went to the mailbox, they gave it back. Do you see? See, in other words, God will do something extraordinary if you know how to cry out to him. If you know how to cry out to him. I mean, literally cry out. That's my money. You can't charge what God has forgiven years ago today. Because if that's the case, then the enemy has legal right to throw everything that I have done into my present. Oh, you gotta believe, you gotta know how the enemy works. If he can get you to believe, if you sit there and say that my past is forgiven, and then all of a sudden something shows up out your past into your present, and you buy into that, then you gave the devil legal right to bring all that other stuff that you said that God has forgiven you because you accepted the nonsense that come into your present that was in your past. No wonder Johnny would show up. No wonder Larry would show up. Serena would show up in your life because you said that you have let them go, but when they show up, it's a part of your flesh that yields to them. That brings all of the other stuff that was back there at the foot of the cross back into your present. The devil is a coward like that. Okay? What's it? He said, be of good cheer. Yeah. He called thee. And he casting away his garments. Sometimes you got to take off your old stuff, y'all. You got to take off that old mindset. You got to take off that old shirt. If that old shirt reminds you of somebody back in your past, you probably need to get rid of that. Does that make sense? Okay. Rose and came to Jesus. And Jesus answered and said unto him, what wilt thou that I should do unto thee? Jesus know, but he still wants you to tell him. He said, the blind man said unto the Lord, that I might receive my sight. And Jesus said unto him, go thy way, thy faith hath made thee whole. And immediately he received his sight and followed Pastor Jackson. He followed Christ's outreach. He followed James. He followed Jesus. He followed Jesus. Don't put your stock in man. Don't put your stock in your spouse. Don't put your stock in your job. Because this coronavirus has clearly shown that it will lock you up. It will lock you up. So now you're in a position to where you have to call on Jesus. But my question is, how are you calling on Jesus? Is it just a mere measly prayer just walking around the house? Or you waiting for the lights to be flickering off and it's not the weather, but his energy about to shut you off before you cry out to him? It should be a daily thing. It should be a lifestyle. It should be something that you just do. Jesus himself went into the Garden of Gethsemane and cried out. If there's any other way, he ain't get in there and say, well, I know I have all power, and I know that I seen this thing from the beginning. Me and you had dialogue. And he sat there and said, whoa, let me go do something for a second. He went to go see if his boys was praying. He said, man, what's wrong? Can y'all stay up 1 hour? Just 1 hour. Pray. We was locked down for weeks almost with this corona. Is our life changed? Did we pray? Did we seek God? Did we cry out to him? Well, see this coronavirus set us up to where it really shows who you really are as a believer. Who you really are. See, it's easy for me to prep myself because I know I got to preach, so I got to get religion around the house because it's the weekend. I gotta look holy. I got to do this and I got to do that. But see, we seasoned saints up in here. Y'all been supposed to spot the phony anyway. Y'all been looking to see if you've been praying, you've been doing what you needed to do. Because we've been around it all of our lives. And you don't know what he gonna do. We look at him and say, what's wrong with him? But back in the day, we'd be like saying, oh, damn, preacher, damn, he's doing his thing. No. Because now, when he get done saying all that, we want to see some signs, miracles, and wonders. Do you hear what I'm saying? See, this was signs, miracles, and wonders. Jesus was walking by. He said, man, what do you want me to do for you? He said, I want to see. I want to see. He said, granted. Because why? He cried out. And now back to this story with this woman. I just had to prove this point. With this woman, she was desperate. And there's many people in the Bible that was desperate. Here's another point I'm thinking that she's thinking. You know what they're saying about women. She's in the company of a bunch of men. She's fast. She like bad boys. She's not acting ladylike. Well, you need to go talk to Rahab. Go talk to Rahab. Rahab had her house in the wall of the city. She knew you when the men were coming from afar off. But you know what though? She had enough sense that when it was a